Last video, we covered the long-term passive effects. In this video, we will cover the active causes of war itself in 1914. The war started in August of 1914 with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand just over a month prior. The first declaration of war came from Austria, with the Habsburg monarch declaring war on Serbia. This is due to the Serbian nationalist group entitled the Black Hand, which was responsible for the assassination. As Austria had been preparing for war, Russia did the same and started mobilizing against Austria. This caused Austria's ally Germany to start to mobilize against both France and Russia, with the former getting more attention. In response, France mobilized. This caused all powers to have large armies ready to go to war, and with the militaristic and nationalistic tendencies among all these nations, as described in the last video, declarations of war in all directions followed. The first major front lines were across Europe, with there being four main ones. Western Front, between France, Belgium, Britain, and Germany. Second was the Serbian Front, between Serbia and Austria-Hungary. Third was the Galician Front, in northern Austria, between Russia and Austria. And finally was the Prussian Front, between Russia and Germany. The Germans, under their Schlieffen Plan, quickly invaded Belgium. The plan called to quickly invade France and knock it out of the war in an optimistic 6 weeks, then railroad the remaining German armies across the continent to contend with Russia. The Germans got immediately held up at the Belgian fortress in Liege. This costed much-needed time that allowed France to better position their troops and the British to send an expeditionary force to Belgium. The Germans eventually pushed through Belgium and tried to advance to Paris quickly to knock France out of the war. They came within 50 miles of Paris. Before that battle at the Marne stunted the Germans' advance, forcing them to retreat. This is referred to as the Miracle of the Marne in France. At about this time, on the Prussian front, the Russians had mobilized armies faster than expected and launched an invasion into East Prussia, where they saw very early success. They were stopped shortly into German territory, however, at the Battle of Tannenberg, where the Russians almost lost an entire army. The Germans were under the command of Erich Ludendorff and Paul von Hindenburg. The Russians saw more success in the south, with Austrian forces being unprepared. Russia's army pushed and took most of the Galician region from the Austrian forces. Finally, in the Balkans, where the war actually started, the Serbian forces withstood the main Austrian invasion, inflicted tons of casualties on both sides. In October of 1914, the Ottoman Empire joined the conflict. They were split on which side to join, as geographically the Entente would surround them more, but the Central Powers had more to offer in terms of new territory. The pro-Central Powers side went and bombarded a Russian naval base in the Black Sea, which caused the entirety of the Entente to declare war on the Turks, aligning them by necessity to the Central Powers. This started two new fronts, one in the Caucasus Mountains and the other at the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. The Ottomans had offensive campaigns on both of these fronts in 1914, with little success. The Egyptian one had more success, ending in a stalemate with the British in the desert, but the blistering wind of Caucasus front left many Turkish soldiers to freeze to death. By the end of 1914, over 1 million casualties had been suffered by all powers. All of Europe's major powers, aside from Italy, would be at war by January of 1915. The fronts look vaguely like these borders here.